Hey guys, myself Rakesh and I welcome you back to ExpoHub channel. Today our topic is what is a background process and how do you create a background process. Okay, and then after that we are going to look at a couple of other details such as project dependencies, how do you toggle between a foreground and a background process, all of this. Now first of all, when I say background process, most of us have an understanding, something which is going to run at the back end, right, which is not going to come in the foreground. That is our understanding. So if you look at the definition given below the background process, create processes that starts in the background and can run concurrently with other processes. Okay, I mean it can run parallelly with other processes for as long as it does not use UI interaction, that means user interface interaction. So those are known as background processes. Okay, so we generally create a process, general process. When I ask you create a process, you come to the backstage view of the UiPath Studio, you hit on start and then click on process. Right now, for a background process, there is a template available here. You click on this and it's going to prompt you to provide a name. You can provide any name and you can give it a description. That's a test and hit on create. Okay, so I have already created. Let me open that. All right, so this is how it will appear. So this will appear more like a normal process, but there are few important differences you should note. What is the difference? These are the by default 4 different packages get added when you are creating a background process. What are those packages? One is related to Excel activities, the other one is related to mail activities, system activities, and the fourth one is web API activities. What is not present? UI interaction activity package is not present because it is a background process. So when it comes to a background process, remember this point: in a background process automation, you are not going to use the UI interaction activities. Okay, the UI interaction activity package will not be available. Do you see? There is no UI interaction activity package. Only these 4 packages are there. Web API activities means deserialized JSON, all those activities would come under this. Mail activities, Excel activities, which can automatically work in the background without needing us to interact with the user interface, right? So all those packages are available. So this point is clear. These are the 4 dependencies. Make a note of all the names. So what it will not contain? The UI interaction activities. So let me show you that. Let's go back to the documentation of background process from UiPath. So what is the definition given? The background process is a template. So just now we went back to the backstage view of UiPath Studio and we use this template called background process. Clear? Okay. The background process is a template for creating processes that can run parallel on the same robot together with one foreground process. That means you can run multiple background processes and one foreground process which is going to interact with user interface, let's say web app or something like that. Okay. For this reason, background processes must not contain activities that require user interaction. This is a very important point, make a note. So this first 2 lines or 3 lines which I have highlighted, please make a note and have a proper understanding before you proceed further. Okay, so we got 2 different points. Background process means it can run parallelly. Multiple background processes can run parallelly together with only one foreground process. So that means one foreground process I can run and with multiple background processes. For this reason, in a background process must not contain, this is a very important point, must not contain activities that require user interaction. Now tell me, what are those user interaction activities? Click activity, type into activity, right? Those are user interaction. It is going to click, go to an user interface and click, type. It will go to an user interface and type. So those kind of activities are not used in a background process. This is an important point you should note. So while you are creating a background process, you should ensure, okay, my project is not going to contain any such activities. Then you can term it as a background process. Okay. All right. Once this point is clear, let's move on. The default dependence, just now I showed you there are 4 dependencies, right? What are those? Excel, mail, system activities and web API activities. So you can see they have clearly mentioned here there are 4 different dependencies that are by default will be available when you are using this template. Okay, background process must not make use of interactive activities like click, type into found in the UiPath UI automation activities package. Remember this is again the points that I'm highlighting are very important points that we should keep on making note on the notebook that you are using. Okay, so remember in a background process the UI automation activities package is not available, because if you use that it is no more a background process, it will become a foreground process. So UiPath.ui automation activities package is not included. Must not make, it is clearly telling must not make use of interactive activities. So this point is very important. Okay, such as click activity, type into activity found in UI automation packages. Okay, so this is clear. So this three four points are very much clear. Now let's create a small process, okay, background process which will not interact with any kind of a user interface. So let's use a delay activity, let's say, and I'm going to say give it a duration of 0000, let's say 02 seconds. After the 2 seconds, or let's give 5 seconds. Okay, after the 5 seconds of a delay it can log a message, or let's use a message box. Okay, message box, and here I'm going to say, so I'm creating a simple, for demonstration, hello Rakesh. So I'm creating a simple background process which is anyways not going to interact with any kind of a UI interface. For example, if you go here in the activities panel and let's say type click, the click activity is not available. Do you see? And if you say type into, even the type into activity is not available because UI interaction activity package is not available in the background. So you should not use it. Very simple. You must not use them. Okay. Only those processes which can completely run in a background you should use. For example, Excel. Okay, I want to do certain kind of a calculation in the Excel, or I want to process that Excel in somehow. So those can be completely a background process. Okay, mail activities, all those things can be a background processes. Okay, so the example also you have got, you can imagine what kind of a project I should keep it in a background. Let's say Excel activities, very simple example, right? I want to make some calculation, apply some template, and then apply some formulas and make some kind of a change and finally make a report out of it. So anything which would not interact at all with any kind of a user interface. Okay, so those things can come under the background process. Is it clear? Let's say here for a demonstration I'm simply using a delay activity and a message box. So this is done. So I've created a background process. Now how this background process, so once this background process is created, let me save it. Okay, how do you know this is a background process? First of all, by looking at the project dependencies, you can say it. When you see the UI interaction dot activities package is not there, that is one indication. The other indication, or the best indication, would be going to the project settings. All right, so you go to the project settings, and here there is an option here called starts in background. Remember, starts in background. If it is yes, that means it's a background process that you have created. Okay, this is another indication. Let's say there is already a project which is a foreground process, but you determine it could be a background process because it is not interacting with any kind of a user interface. At that stage, you can go to that project settings. Even though that was created in a foreground process, you can just enable that. Okay, if it is, let's say if it is no, starts in background because that was a foreground process, then you can come over here and enable it. Just click on it and enable and click on OK. So that way the project will become a background process. So what is the important point to note in the background process? Background process must not make use of interactive activities. Okay, this is a very important point. Okay, this is one important point which you should always remember. That means we are not using this package at all. Okay, this sentence is very important, the highlighted one. So you should make a note of that. Okay, so you understood how to create a background process. You also understood how can you toggle between these processes. Starts in background, if you make it yes, it will become a background process. If you make it no, it will become a foreground process. Okay, foreground means If I ask you, hey, tell me what is foreground, that means anywhere you are interacting with the user interface of a application, of a web application or a browser, right? Anywhere you are doing a user interface interaction, that will become a foreground. Okay, the way you are interacting, that is the sense of the background and foreground. Okay, so that becomes a foreground process and this becomes a background process. So you got an example. Now the question comes, Rakesh, okay, so let's say we have created this background process. Fine, I understood what are the dependencies should be there, which dependencies I should not use. What is that? UI interaction dot activities I should not use, right? Just now we have learned about all these packages. How do you go to project settings and toggle? All this we have understood. Okay. Now tell me, how can I publish it to the UiPath assistant? So on our system we have this UiPath assistant. Now onto this UiPath assistant, how can I publish this and run it? Okay, and one more sentence it said, what is the sentence? We can run parallel multiple processes, creating process that can run parallel on the same robot. So I can run multiple background process at the same time. Now if you see all the projects that we have created, right, or you have created, if you run it only one project you can run at a time. You cannot run this and this, right? Can you run this two at the same time? It won't, because these are all foreground processes. Now here there is a capability that a background process can run parallelly. That means if there are multiple background processes, I can run them. Let's say 1, 2, 3, all the 4 items I can start, I can run at the same time. So let's see that demonstration, right? That is what is more interesting. So let's publish this. Okay, and here it is clearly telling you, before publishing, make sure the project does not contain interactive activities. Otherwise, unexpected behavior would come. Okay, we understood that. Hit on next, and publish it. Okay, so this has been published. Give it a second, it's still publishing. Okay, so now 1.0.1 with the name background process 1. Okay, this is the name of the process that we have published it to the orchestrators. Now what should I do? Let's log into the orchestrator. So let me log in quickly. Alright, so now this much is understood. I'm pretty sure you must have already created a background process. Create a simple one, okay, because our concept should be pretty clear. Once we get the concept, then you do whatever you like. Until then, keep it simple. Okay, so the project has been published to orchestrator. Now we need to check if it is there in the orchestrator or not. Alright, let's click on orchestrator. Now tell me, if you have already read the orchestrator chapter, you should be knowing. Once I have published the package from the studio, if I go to orchestrator, where would I find that? Yeah, so you need to click on tenant. Okay, and then hit on packages. Hit on the tenant and hit on packages. The moment you do it, you can see the background process 1 that we have created is available and there's a dark color. So that means it's a background process. Okay, that's an indication, just a visual indication. So the process is already, the package is already there. Now what should I do? How do I run it? How do I send it to my UiPath assistant on my system from orchestrator to this one? How do I do it? Okay, for that I'll go to my specific folder. If you look at my studio is connected to IT folder, your could be default folder, any folder that you might have given. So come to that, highlight that folder, okay, and hit on processes. Simple. And hit on add processes. Okay, now let's select the package. Just now we have uploaded background process 1. I have selected. Entry point is main.xml, nothing else. 10.1, everything is fine. Hit on next. Okay, package background process 1 version 1.0.1. Package requirements, there is no package requirement as such, so we'll go hit on next. Display name, let's say I will say background process, you can give any name, 1. Okay, and I've said test. Okay, fine, hit on create. So the moment you do this, what would happen? Look at the UiPath assistant. So what happened if you refreshed? The background process has come to our UiPath assistant. Simple. Now once the background process 1 has come, let's say if I run it from here, awaiting install, saying so it will install whatever the package, and then give it few seconds, it will start running. So what we will do, we'll create another background process and try to run two background processes at the same time. We can experiment that. Okay, give it a second. Okay, what is happening? The job started processing. Okay, after 5 seconds of delay, that message box should appear. Okay, just give it few seconds. So now the job started processing. Now one job is running. Okay, now you can see on my screen, if you look at on my screen, this prompt has come, hello Rakesh. Okay, so now what is our main agenda? Our main agenda is, Rakesh, can I run multiple processes? So this is a background process we have created. Let's say I want to run, let's create one more background process. Okay, let's go to home, start background process, and we'll name it as background process 2, and I will say test 2. All right, and hit on create. So what has happened now? I'm creating a new background process with the name background process 2, and this time let's say I will say good morning. So, we'll just create a simple process. Okay, so now here I will again use a delay activity just for experiment purpose. You can do this delay activity, and let's add a time span. I'm going to enter the same time span 00, and then give it a second. Okay, so 00 and then 00 and 05 seconds I've given. Okay, all right, now after that let me use another message box, and there I have said hello Rakesh. I'm going to say good morning. Good morning. Okay, now there are two. This is another process now, background process 2. These are different process I've created. So let publish it. Publish. Okay, now so it is very interesting, right? You saw how from your studio you are publishing it to the orchestrator. So let's go back, and to find that, let's go to tenant, hit on packages, and I should see background process 2. Okay, now to pass it to my UiPath assistant, what should I do? I'll go to process, I'll add a process and select the background process 2. Okay, next, and then next, and hit on create. The same process that we have followed for the first one. So now if you go to your UiPath assistant, you can see now there are two processes. As we know, there are two different background processes. So our experiment is, can I run both of them at the same time? Yes, you can. So let's do it. Let's quickly run the, let's say I have started the process 1, and then I am running. So I'm running both the processes at the same time. Okay, look at this. Do you see running? Both the processes are running. Look at this window running. Both the background processes are running at the same time. So that is the feature of this background process, wherein you can run multiple background processes at the same time. So this demonstration should be good enough for your understanding. Yes, the background process is capable of running multiple items at the same time. But if you do with the same with the foreground processes, you can only run one process at a time in the attended robot scenario. So this is your attended robot, right? UiPath assistant. Now in the attended robot, when you are running it, in the background process, I have run both the process at the same time. But when it comes to a foreground process, that foreground process, only one process will run at a time. Getting it? That is an important point, and there are also a couple of more aspects to it. Okay, there are so many other things which I'm going to cover in the next video. So let's keep it to this, so that we got an example how to publish two or multiple background processes to orchestrator and run it. and we got our differences and understood how it is created, what are the project dependencies, how can you toggle between them, and when you call it a background process, when you call it as a foreground process, what you should avoid. So all of these things, what are the activities you should not use, what is the package you must not use, so all the things we have covered. Okay guys, so thank you so much. We're going to come up with another video, and where I'm going to cover lot many important points. Let's say session 0, session 1, what are those, all these things I'm going to cover in the next video. So take care, bye bye for the moment, bye bye.